All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being here, right? And we thank God for everything. You know, anything you want to do, you must first of all commit it into the hands of God. It's the one that gives wisdom. It's God that gives wisdom. You must commit everything, align your plans with God. Then things will go right. Okay, guys, today, remember what we did last time? We discussed how to calculate the weighted average gross profit percentage. And look, can you still remember? Can you still remember what we did? Okay. Weighted average uh, gross profit percentage, WA, right? PP or whatever. Now, today, we are going to talk about budgeting. Budgeting is very, very important. If you know how to do budgeting, with this alone, you can be able to get a job. It's a career on its own. It's a hot cake. It's a hot cake if you know, got the knowledge of how to prepare budget, right? Every year you hear the parliament, everyone is saying, hey, we are waiting for the budget, right? The budget in terms of what one is expected to receive as well as what one is expected to spend. I like the state budget. You always hear of it, right? At the end of the year, the financial year, you see things becomes standstill, right? Then everybody is waiting for the budget. Once the budget is announced, oh, now things gonna kickstart. Then you know how much the state wants to spend on a particular programs or in a particular sector or whatever, as the case may be, right? Even yourself as an individual, it's always good to have a budget, you know, in terms of how you are going to spend your money in face of what you are expected to receive. That is what we're talking about when we made mention of budget. Do you understand what I mean? For example, somebody can ask you, what is your budget? So, how much do you earmarked? No, how much you anticipate to spend on in buying a particular product or items? Do you understand? For example, if somebody say, how much is your budget for it? Right? That means how much have you earmarked or set aside, if you will, to be spent in procuring a particular product or service? Do you understand what I mean? That is what we mean by budget. Does it make sense to you? Right. It's something that is futuristic. Right. So, given what we've got here, we say a budget is a detailed financial plan of what is mostly likely to happen in future. It's a financial plan, right? What are the elements of that financial plan? Expected income and expenses. Do you understand what I mean? What you intend to spend and what you intend to receive in future. So if that is the financial plan. Does it make sense to you? Right? Have you ever, as a person, prepare a financial plan for yourself, specifically budget? When so you don't make a budget, right? You must learn how to make a budget because it helps you to plan your life financially. People that don't prepare budget, that don't plan financially, you know, in most cases they always run into financial problems. You see, because you must know, for example, how much you are expecting to receive for you to know how you need to spend it. Because if you don't do that, you might end up spending more than what you receive. Does it make sense to you? Do you understand what I mean? Right. So you need to know how much you are expected to receive and how much you are expected to spend. You see, that is why you see some people, they end up be indebted. You see people getting drowned. You know how to be drowned. You know, drown. If you somebody drown in the sea, in a river, right? You know, drowned, right? Somebody can get drowned in debt. When you get drowned in debt, that means you cannot, you get suffocated. There are a lot of people like that, right? For example, before the month end, the salary is finished. You know, there are certain people, Jonga, if the payday is on the 15th, right? On the 14th, right? In the night, 12 o'clock, they don't sleep. Once they, you know what? Because they are drawn in debt, they are so much indebted that there will be a lot of debit order. You see, sometimes they might end up not having anything left over. You know what they do? They just wait. Once that money come quick, they transfer it somewhere. Did you see? That is not a life, man. You need to have a financial plan. Do you understand what I mean? You need to have a financial plan. You know how much you are expected to receive. Based on that, you should know how much you need to spend. Do you see what I mean? It's good for a rational human being, somebody that is rational. How much more a business? A business needs to have a financial plan. And that is what we refer to as a budget. Does it make sense to you? Right. Now, look at what we got here. Very lovely. We say a budget is always for a specific time period. Or something. It's for a specific time period. Right. You make a budget, it could be maybe, perhaps, it could be for 1 month, right? It could be not only 1 month, it could even be only for just a small space of time, just for an event. For example, you want to celebrate your birthday, right? How many times do you celebrate your birthday? I know you do. You like to celebrate birthdays, right? Haven't you said it? When is your birthday, for example? December. Okay, last December, how did you celebrate your birthday? How? Huh? Okay, you went out, right? And you ate some nice stuff, and you had nice time with your friends. You bought new clothes, you know, those kind of things. You spoiled yourself, right? Okay. Before that day, didn't you make a kind of financial plan? This is what I'm going. If I get this money, Jonga, start from this. If I can be able to raise some money for this my birthday, I'm gonna buy this, I will do this, I will do this, I will do perhaps you've written it down or in your brain, right? These are the things that I'm going to do with this money. Haven't you done that? No? That was your budget. You made a financial plan. That was the budget, right? It was your budget. Do you understand what I mean? These are the things we are talking about. Even yourself, you've done it. Yourself, you've done it. Say, if I'm able to receive this money, this is what I'm going to use it for. You make your financial plan. You're making your financial plan, right? You're making your financial plan. Do you understand what I mean? So these are the things that we are talking about, right? So you see, those are the things. So it is for a specific period of time. Then we say this budget, Jonga, needs to be reviewed, right? It needs to be reviewed regularly, right? Do you understand? For example, when you made your budget that I'm going to spend this money for my birthday, right? Perhaps let's start from the income, the generation of the income, because you need money to be able to buy whatever you intend to buy. Let's assume that your money got short. The money that you were looking for, you were eyeing. Your mommy gonna buy you some, give you some money to buy those stuff. Now all of a sudden, your mommy say, "I cannot give you that amount again. I'm going to give you perhaps no short of that. What is going to happen to your expected expenditure, expenses now? You need to reduce it. Do you understand what I mean? You see, along the line, you need to revisit your budget and review it to reflect with realities. To reflect with realities. You need to revisit it. Do you understand what I mean? Because if the money is not there, are you going to rob people? Are you going to steal? Right? You need to make sure that you align your budget based on your pocket. Does it make sense to you? It's the same thing with business. You're running a business. You say, this is how much I'm going to sell. But if the sales is not there, you're going to kill somebody. You need to cool down. You adjust it. Do you understand? Because reality, okay, let's look at it this way. When you are making your budget is futuristic. It's future. It's future based. Do you know the future? Nobody can predict the future. Do you understand? You anticipate. We call it anticipation. You anticipate. It's going to be like this. But in reality, sometimes it might be exactly the way you anticipated. Perhaps it might not be the same. So you need to adjust. Do you understand? Like the other day, they said it's going to rain. The first day, actually, there was rain. But the second day, remember the first day, schools were not closed, right? But I was heavy outpouring. Now, based on that, they say the rain gonna be for 2 days. Now, the school decided to close the second day, but the second day, all of a sudden, there was no rain. This not that much compared to the no compare don't compared to the first day. Did you see? That means you cannot predict the future. So, based on that, you need to revisit. We call it revisit your financial plan and adjust it to reflect a reality. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right. Then, okay, to compare, then you need to review it, like I said, to compare actual performance against the budget. You compare the reality now, all right, against your budget. Right. This is how much I'm expecting to get. Right. Now the money is not there. You see, you're not going to take a rope and commit suicide. You need to adjust. Do you see? Understand? Okay, let me explain it based on the perception of business. Let me use the lens of a business to look at the budget now. I'm using the lens, using the binocular, yeah, of a business to zoom it, to explain what is budget. For example, you got a budget for sales, right? I'm expecting to sell 5,000 manguia in 1 month, right? Or let's say in 1 week, I'm expecting to sell 500 manguias, right? Okay. Now, I have to make a plan in terms of the materials to make that manguia, people that I need to employ to make that manguia, right? Let me put it a long term now, not 1 month. Let's say for 6 months, right? I've made a sales forecast because 1 month is too short. I've made a sales forecast for a certain period of time. That sales forecast must be backed up with action, right? I will buy materials and this. For example, along the line, I discovered that the sales is not going to be the way as expected. What is going to happen to all of others' forecasts? What is going to happen? I will start adjusting. Do you understand? Based on what is happening, based on actual, based on realities. That is what we are trying to say. Does it make sense to you? Right? You cannot make a sales forecast and you see that the way things are going, it's not going to happen, then you stick to it. That means you are not a rational. It's the same. It can either be, Jonga, it can either be uptrend or downtrend. Uptrend, you can increase. You can as well decrease it. Does it make sense to you? But the bottom line that I'm trying to establish here is that it must be revisited. It must be reviewed regularly. You understand? Whereby you need to compare performance with the actual. Actual in this sense means reality. Do you understand it? Right. Now, draw up for each key functions of the business, right? Like I said, you can draw up a sales budget, right? How much you are expecting in terms of sales, right? Like I said, 5,000 or 10,000 manquillions, maybe in 6 months, right? Based on that, you need to draw up a production budget, right? You've got a sales budget, the numbers, right? Then how much is gonna cost you to be able to do it in terms of the materials, the labor, right? But then all those things you need to include it to make up your production costs, right? Then from there you need to have a material budget. How much you gonna spend for to buy the materials, right? Then how much you gonna spend there for the labor, people that are gonna work to make the product. As in this case, Maguian, right? You need to pay people. Then you need to have a budget for the administration, the overhead that you're gonna be using, the overhead in terms of cost you need to incur in running the business that you cannot apportion to a particular product. For example, like the office, right? Where you're doing the administrative work, paperwork, and all those type of stuff. Money needs to be expended. And of course, money needs to be budgeted for it. You see? In other words, budgeting means you need to set aside certain amount of money to cover this cost. And when are you going to retrieve it? When the sales is made, based on your sales budget, your sales. Because when your product are sold, right, then it will generate income. So sales budget has something to do about the numbers that you expected to sell. Yeah, the prediction. Yes, if I may borrow your language, the prediction. Do you understand what I mean? So these are the things we are talking about, right? Is it clear? Then key questions to ask when drawing up the sales budget, as everything starts with the same budget. Then you need to ask yourself about the market size. The market size. You don't just wake up one morning, hey, I want to increase my magunya to 50,000. No, there are certain things you need to look at. There are certain variables. We call these things variables or the parameters, the factors that you need to consider before you can be able to make an evidence-based decision that I'm going to increase my sales or my sales budget or my sales focus is going to be 50,000 magunya. Do you understand? Right. You need to look at the size of the market. How big is the potential market? You need to zoom in. You need to look at the market and see if it is a market that still have enough space in terms of having people that are still interested in buying your product. For example, if you got a market of, let's say, 10,000 people, you've already selling to 2,000. And you know that there are extra, for example, another 4,000 that will be prepared or will be willing to buy from you, but you haven't been able to provide for them. Then you got a headroom. We call it a headroom. The market size is big. You can now spread out. You see, because you got a big space to dwell on. It's like you are in an ocean. It's like you got a big space for yourself. Then you can say, yeah, If my sales budget for Magunya is 50,000, I got people to buy from me. The market size is bigger now. Compared to when the market size is saturated. Like I explained to you the other day, I gave you a good example. Having a big fish in a small pond, big fish in a small pond. That means you cannot, it's discomforting. You will not be able to expand, right? You need to look at that before you can talk about the sales budget, before you can even talk about increasing your sales or decreasing your sales. There are certain things you need to look at, increasing or decreasing. If we are talking about sales budget, like I said, it's not always uptrend, it can be downtrend. You can either increase or decrease or stable remains the same. Then you need to look at the competitors' analysis. Remember, you are not the only one in the market. You are not the only one. Perhaps if you are the only supplier, no problem, right? It becomes a country of the blind where one man is a king. You know, a country of the blind people, one-eyed man is a king because he's the only one that is seeing, right? So if you are the only one in the market, in the industry, good luck for you, right? You can create a kind of a monopoly for yourself. You can make your market to be monopolistic. You set your price by yourself any as you like, right? But if there are competitors, you need to analyze your competitors, right? You need to know how many and what type of product are my competitors selling. You need to know them very well. Look at their product and how many they are selling because it's a war. You need to know your enemies very well before you can attack your enemy. Right? You don't cannot be able to defeat the enemies that you don't know. You need to know, right? So in terms of this, you need to analyze your competitor. Then you need to do financial research. How many products does the business need to sell so that it doesn't make a loss? Right? You need to look at that. Look at the quantity, or rather, the quantity of product that you need to sell in order for you not to make a loss. You need to be financially prudent. Financially prudent. You know, there are certain situations, there are certain businesses, right? It will get to a point that if the financial aspect of the business is not well managed, the business would end up wasting resources. Do you know what I mean? Wasting resources. For example, where you need to employ 5 people, you put 10 people. The other 5 people, they will be idle. You are increasing it in view that you want to increase your sales, right? So you need to be financially prudent as well for you to be able to determine at the end of the day what your sales budget should be in a realistic way. Right. Market research. How many people are likely to buy the product or service offered by the new business? You need to do your market research as well, right? Which has something to do with market size as well. You know, in doing your market research, there you can be able to establish your market potential as well as it relates to market size. Right. So in terms of the former, this is how it looks, sales budget. Right. For example, right, the sales budget, we are talking in terms of the quantity, then multiplied by the unit price of your product. That is how to calculate the sales budget. For example, when you look at this critically, you see we got the sales budget of this product, although the product is not mentioned here, right? Then you have July, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a 6 months sales budget. 6 months sales budget. Can you see it? Right. From July to December. Did you see? Guys, look at it. We can make sense out of it. Sales forecast, right? Forecast unit says you have July 500, right? Then look at the pattern, the trend. Then August 800, then September 1200, October 1200, November 1300, 1500, sorry to say. You see in December now, maybe this person look at it that during December, people are going on holiday. Perhaps this person is selling in a place whereby during December, a lot of people are going on holiday. We can even use location as a case study, right? During holiday, people are December, they are going home. If you have a tax shop in the location of such, that means in December, as people are going on holiday, your sales is gonna be down instead of being upward. Hello, you are losing focus. You're thinking some. I see now you are thinking about something else, right? I could see you. Focus. Right. Now, did you see? Okay. This is the selling price. They don't increase the selling price. The selling price remains the same, right? You only work on the quantity, the expected sales, right? 8 rand, 8 times 500, 4,000, right? 800 times 8 rand, 6,400. Likewise, the same. So this is a 6-month sales forecast for this business, for this product. This is how to draw up a sales forecast. You put the forecast, the numbers, the quantity, then you put the selling price, you multiply. It's very easy. Now, when you want to do your production forecast, you need to look at this sales forecast and work out the quantity of material that you need to buy to make the product, the labor that needs to go in here and everything. So, like I said, you start with the sales forecast. Okay, look at the comment here. Right. You see, the benefit, oh, this one is the benefit of budgeting. Okay. Budgeting helps the owner of the new venture to, very important, take note of the importance of budgeting. Control expenditure by planning before committing fund. Uh, fund, I mean. Control expenditure by planning before committing fund to spend. When you have a realistic budget, a well thought budget, a well planned budget, do you know how much is coming? Guys, listen, listen. You will know how much you're going to spend, right? Control expenditure, you can be able to control it, right? Before you spend the money. For example, younger, you sat down to start planning. During my birthday, I'm going to go to waterfront to spoil myself. I'm going to buy a new dress. I'm going to do this, this kind of stuff. So now you've already planned what to spend, right? Rather than you going there, going to the shop to buy things without having a proud amount that have been set aside or predetermined that you're gonna spend. Do you understand? Guys, look at it this way. If you don't make a financial plan in terms of what you're going to spend, if you go out to buy things, you end up spending more. Right? For example, there are certain people, whenever they are going out to do shopping for the house, right? They got a list. That is budget. Yeah, that is financial plan, is budgeting. Right? Now, when you get to the mall, hello, look at him, he's sleeping. When you get to the mall, what is going to happen? You look at your list. Younger, this is what we do every day, right? It's you exercising this concept of budgeting. You take your trolley, right? You pick item, you pick the items you put on the trolley. You always look back the trolley. Then when your list is exhausted, what is going to happen? Then you take your trolley now to the thing to pay, right? You've already know because when you were planning, you know Coffee is gonna cost you this one gonna cost this. At least you got an idea of how much you're gonna spend. Now, even if there is going to be difference, it's not gonna be much, right? Unless, yeah, okay, let me stop there. You see, now if you don't have a financial plan, there is no budget, you didn't make your budget. You know what happened? You go there, you put. Now, when you take your trolley to the T to pay, now they put certain items. They've already scanned certain items. The other one, then you look at it now. Let me see how much. Ooh. Did you see? You've already now you see the amount is already there beyond, right? Beyond what you have. Did you see now? Before you commit, you didn't make a plan before you commit the phone. Now you get embarrassed. You see, you can get embarrassed. You see, now people are gonna be looking at you and see this one is a poor person, got no money to pay for this, but he pick everything. Did you see? You know, sometimes when I'm going out, I tell my wife, you see, this is the amount we are going to spend. Right? So when she start picking things now, she look at the price consciously, she knows, right? Because we got our own budget. In which case, we wouldn't allow ourselves to get embarrassed by exceeding our budget. At the canteen, they will say, no, this one. Sometimes the cashier have already scanned it. Then you put them in kind of a situation now where they will be calling the manager or the controller to come and cancel it. Did you see what I mean? It's embarrassing because of you failing to plan, do your budget. Now, guys, please give me time to finish this. It's very interesting, right? Now, look at this. Provide target that actual result can be compared with. When you prepare your budget, it acts as a target, right? Like I said, before we leave home, we've already made our budget. I will tell my wife, this is the money amount we are going to spend, right? By the time we go to the shop now, we start buying. Like I said, consciously, she's gonna be putting this price is this, be calculating it. So from there, we can be able to compare. We got a base now, a datum, all right, or a yardstick to compare our purchases. You see the importance of a budget to avoid an embarrassment. Having to call the controller. Say, controller, when they are ringing that bell, controller, everyone gonna be looking at you. You say, remove this one, remove this, remove this. Why? Because you got no money to pay. You didn't plan. You didn't make your budget. Then coordinate all business activities by integrating all functional budget. Remember, when you've got your sales budget, it will help you in making your production budget, right? That production budget will help you in your labor budget and all other budget, which has to be coordinated. Effectively utilizes resources in the best way. Right. When you made your budget, right, it gives you that opportunity, that leeway for you to be able to optimize the usage of your resources. Do you understand? Because you plan for it. We are going to spend 1,000 rand for our shopping. We sit down, we list what we are going to buy, the things that are essential for us. Right? When you get to the mall, it will prevent you from you picking things that you are not needed in the house. You understand? It's seeing the same thing in business. It will help you to utilize your resources well. Right? Know what are required, being able to discern between necessities and luxury, things that are not required. You can be able to remove the things that can constitute waste to your business that will end up eating into your profit. Then determine business objectives in terms of money, right? Evaluate the performance of different departments against the budget, right? So it will help you to be able to evaluate different functional departments in terms of how realistic or how they are able to optimize the uses of resources. Okay, guys, I think we're gonna stop here now. I see now that yeah, it's 3 o'clock. So tomorrow we're gonna continue from here, right? Okay. So you know how to switch off the switch? Yeah, to stop it, stop the video.